Hey everyone, Sam again. Welcome back to Wrestling with Catholicism. Today I'll be going over part 4 of the 4-part series of talks that I gave to a catechism class as they prepared for confirmation. The series of talks was on Theology of the Body, TOB, and today's is going to be living out TOB. So how do we specifically apply it to our lives? I gave this talk to a group of high school boys, so a lot of this is kind of tailored towards high school boys. But again, the major themes that underlie all of this can be applied to anyone's life. And I think there's a lot of really good stuff in here, which is why I wanted to record it and share it with all of you. I also know that people don't come to Instagram to watch like 20, 30-minute videos. So if you do not have 20 to 30 minutes right now to watch it, save it, send it to yourself, do something where you can come back to this. If you have not watched parts 1 through 3, they are up on my Instagram, so you can go and watch those as well. All right, let's get started. Give me a moment to share the screen, and we will be able to jump in. All right, should be good now. So, Theology of the Body, Unmasking the Myths of a Modernized Culture. All right, so living out TOB is talk 4. This meme is the first one from our first meeting, and our second one where we see Fred here trying to go after what does the world offer us? Partying, hookups, pornography, instant gratification, a lot of things like this. So you go down that road, you start to unmask it, you start living that life. What do you find? Depression, anxiety, loneliness, poor social skills, among a lot of other things. All right, so not really something that people are enjoying once they go down that road, but a lot of the times they don't know where else to go because the culture keeps telling them, well, maybe you're not partying enough. Maybe you're not with the right people. Maybe you're not doing something the right way. So it just keeps encouraging people to go down this road, and the further and further they go, the more they unmask these things. So today's talk, living out TOB. Why? Because of its effects. So if Fred, instead of going down with the culture pushes, if he would live out TOB, grow in virtue, save himself for marriage, and see others as both body and soul, what would he find? What would he discover? Well, instead of unmasking an ugly villain, he unmasks Daphne, and we all know that it's his true love, who he's basically spent, the whole Scooby-Doo series secretly denying his love for Daphne. But what else does he find? Becoming a man, right? Finding love, not even just love with another person, but finding out how to truly love others and receive love from others. Sustaining peace, joy, happiness that leaves him fulfilled, sustained, not just a temporary high, a temporary pleasure that disappears and he has to go chasing that next high, chasing that next pleasure, living from weekend to weekend like the world would have us do. This is fulfilling, sustaining, where even if he's walking away from something that might in the moment be pleasurable, he's still happy and fulfilled even when times are tough. So how do we do this? How do we get some of these things that really happiness is what we're all after? That's what today is about. So our beginning. We talked about the beginnings of humanity in the first 2 talks, but when we start to consider how we can personally live out theology of the body, live out TOB in our lives, we must look at our own beginnings. It is in the family where we first begin to learn how to love and to learn how to be loved. If our families don't love well, as nobody here is perfect, we should always remember that we have a perfect heavenly family that we are already a part of. In our families, we are tested. But this teaches us that love is a choice and love takes work. It helps strengthen our ability to love. And we don't choose our families, but we do choose our friendships. So we need to choose people that make us better. We are the product of the 5 people we spend the most time with. So if you take those 5 people, add up all their qualities together, take the average of that, that is who we are. That's who we are becoming. Our friends affect us, and the way that we love, the way that we receive love. So we need to make sure we kind of set these relationships right from the beginning, because the relationships we have with our family and our friends pave the way for the rest of our relationships in the future. So right now you might be thinking, how do family and friend interactions help prepare for future relationships? How do families challenge us to love? Maybe you've never thought about whether your friends make you better or whether they bring you down. Maybe you're in middle school or high school and you're watching this and you're wondering, is it even possible to love right now, to find true love? It's not only possible, but it is necessary. Not necessary to be in a dating relationship, but it's necessary to learn how to love others and how to properly receive love from others. All the pressure and the focus of the culture of our society seems to be on finding love and getting love and receiving love, but no one is talking about how to give love to others, how to properly love other people, which is where this comes in big time. So, TOB, we're going to do a quick review of some of the main themes from the first 3 talks and how it specifically applies to our lives. And then we're going to go through some practical things that we can implement in our day-to-day lives, some practical things that we're like, okay, not sure if we're on the right track. If we're doing these things, then we're definitely on the path to purity. So, review first. We started off with original innocence, original solitude. What does this mean for us? Enjoy singleness. When Adam was first created, he was alone. He was created without Eve. Don't be afraid to be alone. You first have to be comfortable being with yourself before you can truly enjoy the company of somebody else. You first have to be comfortable being alone before you can enjoy somebody else's presence. That's so key, right? And if you don't really understand this, think about it this way. Are you filling your life with people just for the sake of avoiding loneliness? Are those the right people, or are you just filling your life with any people you can find, with all sorts of social media, music, videos, podcasts, everything where there's always something going on and you're never left alone? Is that because you're uncomfortable with silence? You're uncomfortable with allowing yourself to sit and to think and just to spend time with God? Many people struggle with this, and a lot of people enter a relationship looking for the love that only God can give them. But nobody can live up to that. It's setting unreasonable expectations for somebody else, setting them up for failure, and ultimately it sets you up for disappointment and heartbreak. The relationship will become an idol. An idol is something that takes the place of God, and all idols are meant to be broken. Original nakedness. If you felt any hints of shame or questioning towards how you're living, the solution isn't to avoid this feeling by becoming shameless and just kind of ignoring those thoughts and keep going further and further. The solution is to listen to your conscience. This is where God, through the Holy Spirit, speaking to your heart and where you can communicate with God. This is where He's letting you know like that He loves you, and either, yes, you're on the right track, this is awesome, keep going, or He loves you too much to watch you go down this road because He knows the heartache and the hurt that you're going to be left with in the end. So the solution is to listen to your conscience, to know your goodness and your worth, and then to adjust. So some examples. If you're with your girlfriend or your significant other and you're wondering, is this too far, or how far is too far? You've probably already answered that question. Your conscience is speaking to you. If you're wondering if an outfit or a behavior or an action is too revealing, again, you've already answered that. We talk about how we've separated the body and the soul when we look at people. We become tempted towards taking and using the body for pleasure, aside from ever getting to know and loving and giving ourselves to the soul. And this is called lust. When we see the beauty of a person, let's learn how to view that person properly. And this is key here. We do this not by praying against our desires and against our thoughts, but by praying for them. So for example, we don't say, okay, Lord, help me to never find another woman attractive again, ever in my life. Help me find them all repulsive. Lord, right now I'm really struggling with lust, and if I just thought they were all repulsive and I just had the taste of vomit in my mouth every time I saw a female, I wouldn't struggle with this because I'd be so worried about finding the nearest trash can that I wouldn't be tempted to sin, right? We know that's not how God created us to be, right? So instead of praying against our thoughts, against our desires, pray for them. Say, God, I know the way that I'm seeing women right now, the way I'm seeing other people isn't how you intended it to be. My thoughts, my desires, they're twisted. Lord, please help untwist them. Give me a heart like yours to love. Give me eyes like yours to see the beauty that they were created with, to see the beauty they were created for, to see them as beloved daughters, beloved sons of Christ, my brothers and sisters in Christ. Lord, help me to see them and to love them and to know them as you love them. All right, so we can pray for our thoughts, for our desires, rather than praying against it. And one quick prayer that a priest told me one day when I was in confession, when I was struggling with a lot of lust, it's like, Sam, I used to be there. When I was your age, I struggled too. But when I was your age and I was in your same shoes in confession, a priest told this to me, and I'll tell it to you now. He said, one thing that we can do whenever we see someone who's attractive and we're tempted towards kind of walking down that pathway and lusting in our head with our thoughts is just immediately stop and redirect those to God and give God praise for the beauty of his creation. Like thanksgiving and praise for God and the beauty of his creation. Like, God, you're really good at what you do. Like, you're awesome, man. Keep it up. And he said the prayer that he was taught, which honestly works. It sounds funny, but it does work, is see someone attractive, you're tempted towards lust, just immediately turn your eyes up to heaven and say, God, well done with that one. All right. Sounds funny, but I promise you it does help. All right. So we need to be able to see others properly, but this goes both ways. We also need to learn how to properly reveal our bodies for their created purpose. We are created in the image of God, and the body, our body, reveals the person, our whole selves, body and soul. Revealing this truth of our creation happens in different contexts. So at school, with friends, with significant others, we can do this by not exposing too much of our body so that others see us as body and soul. If we expose too much, then they are just seeing us as our body, and that's honestly not dignifying for us. It's making them see us as less than we are, as worth less than we are. So by covering up and dressing more modestly and acting more modestly, they're not looking at us and separating our soul and our body. They're seeing the whole person. They can better love us. We can better receive love. And it helps our relationship where then, in turn, we can love them better. Spousal meaning of the body. The purpose of dating is to find a spouse with whom we'll fulfill our longing to love in the image of the Trinity, imaging God as male and female. So again, the image of the Trinity, we have God the Father, who gives perfect love to God the Son, who in return gives that perfect and infinite love to God the Father, and out of that love between them, they beget or bring forth the Holy Spirit. In a healthy, holy marriage, we have the husband giving perfect love to his bride, who in return gives her love back to her husband, and out of that mutual love, that love between them, they beget or bring forth an offspring, a child. So imaging God as male and female is a pure desire. We talked about that a lot in our first one, and how we were created to image God within the very marital act. So with this purpose in mind, we can't have romantic actions without serious intentions. Now, this doesn't mean we have to be super serious and intense to every single girl we talk to, or that you have to know you're going to marry someone just to be in a relationship with them. What it does mean is you can't just go fooling around. This only sets unequal expectations, strings and attachments, and ultimately somebody, if not everybody involved, will get hurt. We also need to be intentional about dating. All right, so dating, it's not just a texting / Snapchatting relationship. It's not just like, well, we have a 7-day streak. As soon as it hits 8 days of a streak on Snapchat, that's more than a week. We're basically dating now. Like, no, if you want an in-person real life family in the future, you should try to get an in-person real life girlfriend now. So this texting, Snapchatting relationship, you can text and Snapchat in between when you're able to see each other, but there needs to be an in-person aspect to it. Men, you also need to say the word date. You need to be intentional and clear about what you want with a woman. The book right here on the screen, The Dating Blueprint by Jason Everett, he surveyed a bunch of different women about what they wished guys knew about dating, right? Women want to have guys pursue them. They want to feel like they're worthy of someone to sacrifice for them. But a lot of guys today are just like, hey, do you want to hang out? No? Okay, that's cool. And it's so non-committal because they're afraid of being rejected. Put it all out there. Show the woman that you care about them, because out of all of the women surveyed, one of the number one themes was say the word date. If you want to ask them on a date, say the word date, because they would say yes to some guys that normally they would turn down just because they were confident enough to say that word. And they respected the women enough to put themselves out there. All right. So another thing kind of along the lines of dating, one thing kind of to avoid is what's called missionary dating. So missionaries go and try and win the hearts of people over for Christ, bring Christ to people and help transform their lives. Don't date someone in hopes that something about them will change. Date someone because you enjoy being with the person that they are. All right. Oftentimes, when people jump into relationships because they see the potential in someone, that potential never gets brought out, at least not in the way that the person's intending. And oftentimes, the person then gets hurt in the end because they're setting an expectation for someone to be who they aren't, which isn't fair to that person either. Another thing, if somebody is kind of trying to isolate you, take your friendships, your relationships with your family, your relationship with God, and diminish those things, that's not a healthy relationship to be in either. Our relationships need to be properly ordered with God first, and then your family. And then if you're in a dating relationship, that's below those, because you're trying to see if that person will make your future family relationships or if they're just a friend. Dating is a time of intentionally growing in a deeper friendship and a deeper relationship with someone as you both try to figure out the answer to this question. Is this someone who I want to spend the rest of my life with? Okay, so is this someone I want to spend the rest of my life with? You're both trying to answer that question at the same time as you intentionally spend more time together to grow in relationship with each other. And during this, women want to be pursued, but in the right way. So that means sacrificing, going out of your way to do something nice for them, going out of your way to either call them instead of just text them, or sacrifice your time to see them in person to let them know how much they mean to you. Right? So women want to be pursued. They want to know that they matter. And you're willing to be like the knight in shining armor and go through, make a bunch of sacrifices, go through things to pursue them and to save the princess. However, you also need to respect their privacy, and no means no. Pursuing a woman does not mean following them home and waiting on their doorstep. That is a big no-no. I don't think I have to go in any more detail about that, but women want to be pursued the right way, but also they need to be respected with this too. So don't think I have to clarify anymore, but anyways, there we go. All right, so how should we go about this whole dating thing? Do we just find any girl we think is remotely attractive and run up to them like, hey, do you want to be my girlfriend? No, that is a super huge cringe with a 0% success rate. What we need to do instead is focus on friendship first. By doing this, we can build a romantic relationship on the basis of a solid friendship. So thinking back to the beginning, we talked about how people learn to love, receive love, and give love in their families and friendships. When you're getting to know a girl or a guy, depending on who's watching this video, look at their relationships with their friends and with their families. That says a lot about their character. Because the reality is that If this person likes you and wants to be in a relationship with you, they're going to try and impress you and win you over. But once they feel like they have you, once they don't have to try and win you over or impress you anymore, they're going to start acting towards you the same way that they act towards other people in their lives, their family and their friends. Also remember that as you are the product of the 5 people you spend the most time with, so are they. Who does this person that you're pursuing spend time with? Who are they going to become? Are you happy with that person? Self-mastery. So to be able to be in a relationship and give yourself, in the first place, you need to have control of yourself to give. So you will either control your passions or your passions will control you. So this goes to how we are made in the image of God. So humans are, you can kind of think of humans as like a hybrid between angels and animals. So humans have an intellect and a will. These are in common with angels. An intellect allows us to know good and evil, and it allows us to have a relationship with God. Our will is our free will. We can choose that good, or we can choose to turn our backs on God and choose the opposite of good, which the absence of good is evil. So we have free will to choose good or evil. We have an intellect to know the difference. The thing we have in common with all other animals are senses, emotions, right? These are called our passions, more of our fleshy desires. So will we be properly ordered? Will we have our intellect informing our will, and our intellect and our will kind of governing our passions and desires and emotions? Or will we just kind of live life passively, going from whatever feels good in this moment to whatever feels good in the next, and letting our passions take control of our lives, using our will to choose our passions and using our intellect to try and convince ourselves, I think it's okay. We're just animals, right? So this is how we all should act, right? Instead of using our intellect to try and convince ourselves what we're doing isn't wrong, we need to invest in our intellect and our will to know good, to know evil, to have a relationship with God. And then our will chooses that. And then we're able to be properly ordered, master ourselves, and give more of ourselves to others. Language of the body. Pause a second for you to read this meme. I think it's pretty funny. I did not make this on my own, but it's too funny not to be included. So, language of the body. Why do I have that meme up there in the first place? Define your relationships. Are you dating or are you not? Don't act like you're dating if you're not, and if you're dating, don't act like you're married. With physical boundaries, stop asking how far is too far, or how far is too far? What can we do without going over the edge? What we need to start asking is, how can I get this person closer to God? In a society where people who are single act like they're dating and people who are dating act like they're married, it's no wonder why so many people who are married are acting like they're single. It's no wonder why there are so many broken families and broken relationships and so much brokenness in our society today. You have a duty to your future family for you to start off right now, to start organizing, defining, prioritizing relationships in your life. Start living properly ordered right now, because I'm telling you, if you're not, in the future it will come back around to you. So how can we do this? Life in the Spirit. Pray, go to confession whenever we fall, redirect and start anew. Stay close to Jesus. It is He who gives us the grace to grow in virtue. It's not something that we can just muster up on our own. It's not like I can say, by my own brute strength, I'm not going to sin today. I'm just going to be perfect. In fact, I'm not going to sin the rest of my life. I've got this. I'm strong enough. Because every single time I've done that, every single time anyone else has done that, we ultimately fail. We fall back to sin. How can anyone become a saint? How can anyone live a good life then? Is by staying close with the relationship with Jesus, staying close to God, because He will gift us virtue. We just have to ask for it. And even if, let's say, we don't want it yet, hey, I know one day I want to be pure, but I don't want to be pure today. Lord, help me want to be pure. Just give him the desire to be holy. He will start there and he will work with us. But we have to ask him for it. And this will help flip our lives around. It'll have our intellect informing our will, and that will govern and guide our passions. Our actions and understandings of relationships need to flow from a genuine relationship with God. This means we need to talk to him. We need to talk with him, not just at him. So a lot of us, we believe in God, but do we actually believe God? God desires your happiness too. He's given us these instructions on how to live a fulfilling life, not because he wants to keep us down or bind us with all these rules, but because we are free for something greater. And this is a pathway for that thing, right? We are free to not follow these rules. We're also free to inflict a lot of suffering upon ourselves. God didn't mess up when he made you, and every part of you is your identity, and it is beautiful. God not only loves you, but he likes you. Our bodies are visible realities of the invisible God. He already existed as complete love. He didn't need anything else. He already had infinite love within the Trinity. Nothing could add to him. But he made you of an outpouring of his love for the purpose of loving him and being loved by him. He loves you and he likes you. He did not need to make you. He wanted to make you. He doesn't just, it's not this distant God who loved Adam and Eve and then they sinned and now he just kind of tolerates and love your enemies. He just tolerates the rest of humanity from that point forward. He made you with the sole purpose of you being able to get to know him and him being able to spend time with you. He made you because he likes you. He thinks you're cool enough to spend time with, and he hopes one day that he gets to spend eternity with you. Now, he gives us free will. He doesn't force himself upon us because ultimately he wants you to love him and to choose him back. Our hearts have a God-sized hole in them that only he can fill. We undermine our self-worth whenever we settle for other sources of love. We disrespect ourselves and others in an effort to win over this counterfeit love, only to realize that it's just an illusion and it's worthless. This is a pattern that's been in place since the fall of Adam and Eve. But know that in living out theology of the body, we are living the way that we are created to live. And we increase our satisfaction in our capacity to love and our capacity to be loved by living out TOB. It's not easy to choose. It's countercultural. It is a daily battle. And our passions are often telling us to go one direction, and our heart, and we know in our heart we know, in our intellect, right? We know the good is to go the other way. We're being pulled different directions. But again, if we believe in God, do we also believe God? Do we believe that this is the best way for us to be living? Stop prolonging your own happiness and start living out your faith more profoundly now. So how do we do this? How do we live out our faith? Here are 10 practical ways to live out theology of the body in your life. Go through these 10. If you're struggling right now, because at one point I was really struggling, don't try to add all 10 at once, right? Very few people would ever be able to handle something as drastic as that. I know I've tried doing a lot at once, and ultimately within a couple of weeks, I can't handle that big of a change, and I fail, and I don't keep any of the new habits. Focus on one or two. Add those one or two habits into your life, and after you have those down for a few weeks, add one or two more and focus on those. And then by doing this, after a few months, you'll have all 10 down, and they'll just be second nature. They'll be a habit rather than trying to force all of it upon you, and it's too much and you break under the pressure. So listen to all 10. There will be a slide at the end with all of them on one slide, so you can take a picture if you need to and kind of focus on a few of those. Number 1, pray for purity. Again, do not just try to repress sexual desire, because it is the good desire to love in the image of God, in the image of the Trinity, but redirect them. Pray that they be untwisted, right? You can do this by praying. I know a lot of people that pray 3 Hail Marys a day for this. You can spend time reading the Gospels. You can say the prayer that the priest told me, right? Well done with that one, right? You can do that. One quick thing I'm going to say is St. Joseph here, I have him pictured under his title, St. Joseph, Terror of Demons. A lot of the success that I've experienced on my road to purity, right? Purity isn't as much a destination as it is a pathway, and this pathway leads us closer to Christ's heart. The pure of heart will see God. So following that path, we get closer to him. The progress I've made on this pathway called purity is largely in part to St. Joseph's intercession. I was struggling a lot, and one of my friends one day was like, well, I'm doing this consecration to St. Joseph. It starts tomorrow. If you order yourself a book, I'll send you pictures of the first couple of days, and then you can kind of, once you get your book, keep going from there. So I decided, like, you know what? I've tried a lot of other things. They haven't worked. What's this one more? Like, I'll try it. I'm kind of desperate. And I did. And through his intercession, God provided me the graces to make leaps and bounds that I never could on my own. Through years and years of struggling, through his intercession, it was, honestly, I could only say, like, basically miraculous, because for years I've proved to myself that there was nothing I could do on my own strength to overcome this. But entrusting myself to his intercession, God granted me the graces to overcome a lot of the things that I had struggled for years with. So if you're looking for a new saint to become friends with, or the intercession of somebody powerful, St. Joseph, some of his titles, foster father of the Redeemer, right? The man hand created by God to be the father to God the Son on earth, right? The foster father of the Redeemer, chaste spouse of the Holy Mother. A lot of things. Terror of Demons right here, though, by far my favorite, right? Pillar of Families, another one. Anyways, I'll stop going on about St. Joseph. Maybe I'll make another video about him someday. Number 2, avoid bad relationships. Avoid impure relationships before they begin. Only date people who share your morality, not those who undermine it, right? Being friends first helps you understand their morality a long time before you kind of get to a situation where maybe it's compromising to you. And a note from there, don't just be with people who merely tolerate it. Find someone who shares it. I didn't think this was as important until I found someone who shared my morality, right? If someone just kind of tolerates it, they'll respect you, right? They'll let your no mean no. But let's say there's a day you're just spiritually not as strong. You're having a bad day, okay? And in that moment, right, of that day, maybe it's hard to say no, and maybe you slip up and you don't say no. By not saying no, they're going to take that as a yes. They're going to be like, oh, okay, like, we've waited long enough. It's time now. And then they're going to take advantage of that. Whereas if you find someone who shares your morality, who shares your views on this stuff, who knows that you are a treasure, your body is a treasure, and treasure isn't just to be thrown around to give it to anyone, but to the one person on earth who is worthy to be your spouse. If you and your significant other share the value that each of you are that valuable, on days when you might not be as strong and might struggle saying no, they're going to carry that burden for you. And on days that they're struggling, you're going to carry the burden for them. And together, you're both going to grow in virtue, grow in holiness together. Number 3, avoid your triggers. It can be really hard to say no in the heat of the moment, so say no before it ever gets there. Once you're in a relationship, avoid places and situations in which you are likely to fall into sin. To avoid temptation, as a couple, stay sober, go out with other couples or friends who share your values and standards. It's not all about just following a list of rules to avoid going to hell. It's about wanting heaven for yourself, for your significant other or spouse, loving them and loving God enough to choose the greater good over the immediate gratification, the immediate pleasure, choosing something far greater. By saying no, your yes has much more weight, much more power to it. Number 4, set boundaries. So to do this, if you're in a relationship, you need to know where you're going to be tempted, and you need to set boundaries. You're going to need to make sure that your date knows your boundaries before you even go out with them. This means you're likely going to need to have a specific conversation about it. This is much easier if the relationship begins in friendship, because you already naturally have discovered that person's values and the kind of things that they hold, standards they hold, and you're likely not getting into a relationship with them if you're already their friend, if they don't share your morality, because you're like, well, it's not a person that I see ever being with long-term down the future. So you kind of already worked a lot of that out just through your friendship. Number 5, choose good friends. Choose friends who will help you grow in purity and listen to the advice of your wisest friends, family members who are committed Christians. Again, you are the product of the 5 people you spend the most time with. So choose to be around saintly men, saintly women, and be a saint for others around you. Number 6, wear a reminder. Wear a crucifix, a religious medal, a consecration chain, carry a rosary, or some other sign of your faith. Not only is this a sign for others who see you, but it is a daily reminder to yourself of who you are, a beloved child of God, and your worth from that, and your dignity. Number 7, eliminate impurities. Rid your life of impure music, websites, books, TV shows. If you want to be pure, then listen to, watch, think about, read pure things. St. Paul tells us whatever is honorable, whatever is just, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is gracious, if there is anything excellent or anything worthy of praise, think about these things. All right, so you're going to be basically think about your diet is more than just the food you eat. It's everything you consume. Your friends, what you watch, what you listen to. You need to have a healthy diet if you're going to be a healthy person, body and soul. You need to take care of yourself physically, mentally, spiritually. Number 8, weekly adoration. Spend time in front of the Blessed Sacrament in Eucharistic adoration. Do not hesitate to take your significant other with you, or even your friends with you, or your family members with you. It is a great way to lay the foundation of any relationship. A relationship built on something in this world that changes is built on shaky ground, and when that thing changes, the relationship falls apart. But God is infinite and unchanging, and a relationship built on Him will not crumble. There's a reason John Paul II called it the school of love and freedom. Number 9, monthly confession. Go to confession at least once a month. Remember, confession isn't just the removal of guilt of sin, but, and this is directly from the Catechism, it is an increase of spiritual strength for the Christian battle, right? So think of it basically as an injection of graces, right? Taking like steroids for the spiritual life. So you go there, not only are your sins forgiven, your slate is wiped clean, you're able to keep going, living the Christian life, your relationship to God has been restored. But even more so, now you have this, basically, I think about it as like an injection of graces. So the next time you come across temptation, you're more equipped to fight that and to succeed. And number 10, lastly, advocate for yourself. If things are going too far, don't be afraid to say no. Let your no mean no, your yes means yes, right? Your desires, your morality, all of this matters. So advocate for yourself. Don't be afraid to stand up, be confident, be courageous in your faith. All right, so those are some 10 practical ways to live out TOB. And again, at the beginning, we saw some of the really good things that can come of this. So this here could be you if you are living out TOB. So here are 10 ways. You want to take a quick picture of the slide, screenshot, whatever you need to. I think these are great things to do, things that I also strive for. I think they are things that everyone should try to live by. And I'll put this back up one more time. So showing kind of the moment of the fall where humanity basically caved in and sin entered the world versus where our relationship to God is restored by Jesus' sacrifice on the cross, and how from the Garden of Eden, everything that went wrong with Jesus' sacrifice, with his crucifixion, death, and ultimately his resurrection, how he righted all those wrongs for us, and how he took our sin upon himself so that we have this chance, this opportunity to restore our relationship with God and to be with him for eternity. At this point of the talk, this is where we would kind of break out to small groups, talk about, what are some specific ways we're struggling? What are some specific things we can add to our lives to help us overcome these things? And how can we be there for each other? How can we build each other up rather than trying to take this fight all on our own? Because doing this on your own, when Satan isolates you, from good friends, when Satan isolates you from family members, from Christ, he can tear you down a lot easier than when you have a good community. So how can we build community? How can we build each other up? And how can we overcome these things to live a life that's going to leave us happy, fulfilled, sustained? Thank you for watching. If you like it, then leave a like, comment, let me know. If you think that this is going to help somebody else out, please share it with them so that they can hear this too. Again, these are talks that I gave to high school boys over the past school year here. So they're a little bit more directed towards that audience, but the themes in them I think are great. And I've learned a lot doing these talks, and it's helped me out in my life a lot. So I wanted to share that with as many people as I'm able to, so that this can hopefully help them out too. Thanks for watching. Have a great night, everyone. Be lights of the world. Stay salty. God bless.